Hello, everyone, and welcome in. We're here for the Discraft presents Sun King's Throw Down the Mountain 11. Of course, the famed Grand Canyon course in Brooksville, Florida. We've got a great card for you today. Ellen Widboom, along with Jordan Lynds, Nid Ovathanasin, and rounding out the card, Morgan Lynds, the other Lynds twin. And as I said, special guest as well here, Ellen Widboom on the mic. Ellen, you ready for this?
I'm totally ready. What's up, Terry? Welcome back to Florida. It's good to see you again.
I love it. Glad to be here last week for Tallahassee and now here for weekend 4 of the Throw Down the Mountain. And here we are on hole 1.
Hole 1 is pretty much a straight uphill. Mind the wind, kind of read the flag on the basket, and choose accordingly. It's a steep drop off behind the basket as well as the two sides, and there is OB pretty far down on the right.
And right off the bat, we're seeing you lead with the backhand.
I've been working on it, Terry, and I'm throwing a star mamba there, and it got a little bit of lucky ground play, and I'm about pin high up on the left.
Here we have Jordan Lynds. Looks like she's going to finish off to the left side. We'll use the cheater right now. Jordan's wearing blue. Morgan's wearing black.
Got it.
We'll still screw it up, I bet.
I usually have to ask them before the round what they're wearing and, yeah, differentiate. But at the beginning of the round, for sure.
Perfect. That was Nid, and now here's Morgan. Morgan, more likely to go to forehands, too, I believe, as her stronger suit.
Correct. Yep.
Not a lot of trees to contend with here on hole number 1 unless you get off of the fairway, and we see off to this left-hand side a little bit of work to do to try and get up and down.
Nid, unfortunately, got a bit of a push down to the left, and then on her upshot landed between those two trees just behind the basket, so she'll have probably a straddle putt out.
No problem for Jordan.
I think I'm just on the edge of the circle. It's a little bit harder to put markers out there, the way the course is set up and the terrain and the hills and everything, so usually people would just ask the question or we walked it off, or the rangefinders nowadays kind of put you in the right direction.
Yeah, and actually we see different pin positions throughout the various weekends. And hello, birdie on 1. Nice putt.
Thank you. It felt really good to get that one. Kind of settles the nerves right on hole 1. And yeah, walk away with a birdie for a clean start.
And a little bit of a confidence boost, too, you know, knowing that there's danger directly behind the basket.
For sure. And my little bit of nerves going for me. My dad showed up to watch the round along with some friends from South Florida and old family friends. My sister's on the bag, so it definitely had some nerves going there in the first couple holes.
Yeah, Nid's par attempt is off the top of the band. She's going to be sitting right there for the bogey cleanup. Hole 1 came in as one of the easier holes on the course, also one of the shorter holes at that 231 feet, so it played just a little bit under par. But we say easy and it feels easy, but it's also the starting hole of the round, so it definitely some other factors there.
Right.
Short walk brings us over to hole number 2.
This one plays dogleg left, or you can choose to go pick one of the gaps, where the drone is flying right now. This is the right gap that you can try to hit. Come around, barbed wire fence on the right, which is OB. There is a gap really far to the left of the basket, which is a straight shot, but it takes more of a committed drive on a hyzer line to get it all the way left. I chose to go with a sidewinder to put it on a pretty extreme hyzer. Kind of missed the line and threw a little too far, clipped a tree near the first gap, but I wanted to go all the way down to the second gap for that clear second shot.
This looks to be drifting left.
Morgan and Jordan are both, actually, all three of the other ladies are sponsored by Discraft. So they are, or at least they're throwing Discraft. And Morgan and Jordan rely heavily on the Zeus for a lot of their drives during this round. So that's pretty much what you'll see is the Zeus and the Hades out of Morgan and Jordan.
But just by default, we can assume it's going to be one or the other. Yeah.
Nid also threw a Zeus on this hole.
And this is just some of the trouble that you can find out here. Obviously, fairway is so paramount on this course. And really just a disciplined move there to not try and manufacture something that's not there, just pitching it back into the center of the fairway and try and do the work from there to maybe save the par.
Yeah, those fir trees are really grabby. They look like you could punch through pretty easily, but there's a ton of twigs. And I mean, you could just see how thick it is for my shot right here. I had a little bit of a gap, so I had to go to the knee. And I have to be careful because that barbed wire fence is looming behind the basket. So you got to make sure that you put it on enough hyzer to get it up there to stay clear of that. And per the rules, if anybody gets close to the barbed wire, it is 2 meter relief from the barbed wire, and it does surround the property.
And talk about this green just a little bit, not just necessarily approaching to it, but just what can happen when you're out on this green.
It's a fun basket location. Actually, last year it rained a lot, and there was a giant puddle behind the basket,
Yep.
more like a lake, and people threw their discs in it, and you couldn't see the discs. So this year, thankfully, no rain yet. It is kind of death putt a little bit, but you can get the rollaways being put on the cliff. And this course is notorious for having some pin locations high atop some cliffs and rolling hills. So the danger is always present. And my putt, for instance, I am putting back towards that cliffside.
Oh, come on.
Got a little tree love, Terry. I don't know what to tell you.
Beautiful. Back-to-back bangers here on 1 and 2. Great start.
Thank you.
Short range for Jordan.
It's fun to see the progression of the pin locations and the tee pad locations. This course is open for about just over a month. There's open play during the week, and they have 2 open play weekends. You can come out. My sister and I made it a point to come out for every single weekend or week play. So we saw every single location, and it's really neat to see just how much farther they get back on the course and how much more difficult it actually becomes.
Well, and that kind of speaks to what you were saying about the markers and marking off the 10 meters. You know, these baskets are constantly moving throughout that entire month. So those 10-meter markers would be all over the place and probably create more confusion than anything. As you guys go to hole number 3, this is a beefy par 4.
This is one of the signature holes on the course, I think. You've got to tee off of another cliff, down to a gully, up this service road, essentially, and then along the fence line to a basket that, again, sits on top of a small berm with the threat of a rollaway. It is a true par 4 in every sense of it. And you really just try to either land straight at the bottom or actually on the service road to give yourself a look for a second shot. And you're still probably going to be throwing uphill again.
Yeah, uphill, and then the footwork comes into play. You know, trying to time your footing. No matter where you land, you're probably going to have an awkward stance or some kind of awkward footwork to deal with.
And that hill that you see where the spotters are sitting, thanks to the spotters, by the way, for being out there, you can land on that hill. That's not OB, so you got to trek up there like a mountain goat and try to get even like crazier footing, probably, truthfully, just to pitch out again back to the road.
Mid pushing to the left side. That's going to be short of the corner, and that's where you can find a lot of trouble, is then deciding, are you going to pitch out to the fairway? Or how much are you going to try and progress? Then you get too aggressive, you could bring the road into play, and we're seeing that perfectly pitched out into the center. But still, now you have the footwork to deal with as you're trying to run up the hill.
And where Nid is a popular spot, not really by choice, but there is a gap over there. There's an opening, and it's a hyzer line back up to the service road. I've got to play some practice rounds with my sister, and she ended up over there a lot, but that was kind of her play in the end because there was a perfect line to get back to the road, and she was just trying to go for the 4, so it worked out in her favor. A great shot up to the top. She'll be able to see the basket from there, and she didn't give it too much. You give it too much, you got that chance of the rollaway, kick, cut, roll, and that OB fence comes into play really quickly once you get up there. It's really kind of about situational awareness on this hole, knowing the trees and how close they are to the actual fence, because you can't see the basket or the green from where you're at down there.
Yeah, it's just a lot of trust, and that one tree is a little bit of a landmark for you to make sure that you're inside of that usually, because you often see it hit that tree, kick 10 feet to the right, and you're out of bounds. almost immediately. So
Absolutely.
this has got to be a nerve-wracking throw.
That was me being scared of the OB and just giving a little bit too much. We were dealing with some winds out there as well. They were swirly, twirly. They would come about every 10 minutes in gusts. So you just kind of had to take your time and deal with the wind as it came, and then just, take your medicine sometimes. And Nid, unfortunately, would have been a great shot and skipped. She found the root, and it just dug right under it. So sometimes you just get an unlucky break out there.
Now you're seeing the basket finally. And like you said, still perched up on a little bit of a hillside, so rollaway is quite common even when you do get near the pin.
Mm-hmm.
Stand still forehand that checks up. That should play out just fine. And really a bonus birdie if somebody were to get a 3 here. This is just not commonly birdied by our FPO division.
Absolutely not, Terry. Truthfully, I don't even remember if I've ever gotten a 3 on this hole, and I play it every year, and it seems like it almost gets harder because now you know all the bad spots you can be, and it's all in your head. Yeah, and I mean, he moves the basket back every year, so it just seems like I'm just waiting for him to put it like right next to the fence or put it 20, 30 feet back and still keep it at par 4. I'm just waiting for the day. Who knows? Who knows what the course will actually become?
Yeah, we'll see. Of course, so much conversation in the last week or two about one Paul Macbeth and Dillon Cease becoming the new owners out here. Here you are with a par save opportunity. All right. Putter is working. That wasn't quite a center, but it doesn't matter. It's in. Your putter is looking pretty good so far through the first 3 holes.
Thanks. I actually, last tournament, had some issues with it and spent all week trying to actually figure out what I was doing and why it was coming out of my hand early. Fixed it, practiced it, got more confidence, and came into this weekend just really feeling good about the putt and, where I was at with it.
Yeah, and so far off to a great start as you're sitting 2 under through the first 3. We're going to head over to a somewhat of a tunnel shot as we see Sun King Discs, our presenting sponsor, along with Discraft. What are we doing here on hole number 4?
Straight shot, up the gut, minimal elevation change until you get about 60 feet from the basket. Then it's again, the camera angle really doesn't do it justice. It's a pretty steep hill. The play is get to the base of the hill if you can, avoid the tree kicks, half run the putt, get a 3, walk away. A little bit of early release on my part, but got a decent way up the fairway.
Nice low line. I love it when you come in with just the slightest amount of angle, but relatively flat so that you can get some of that skip up the hill rather than trying to force it all the way up there. Come in flat, let the disc and the skip do some of the work. You don't have to worry about driving the hole or anything crazy like that. So play it into the ground, into the hillside, and you'll be fine.
And if anyone hasn't been to this course, the leaves that cover this course this time of year are slick. You can get that ground play almost guaranteed. You know, there's a couple roots and cow patties, let's be honest, out there that you could hit. But the leaves are super slick, and it's a great play to just get that skip off the ground. I just pitched up with a Nova. It's one of my favorite discs for the Annie putter shots. Just get it up to the close to the pin. Easy tap in.
And this hole as well, and people have been watching coverage of this course now for almost 10 years here on my channel. This was one that's just kind of progressively got longer and longer throughout the years as well. This used to be a much shorter, more obtainable birdie, and now that it's perched as high up as it is, it really becomes a bonus.
And the FPO field, we're playing the orange layout. There's a gold layout that the MP40 and MPO fields are playing, and the pad on this one is pretty far back, and it's still a par 3 for them, and it is very challenging. And actually last year, I'm pretty sure the basket was farther back on the hill with still the threat of a rollaway and a super hard 3 to get. So I think with the changes, he kind of tweaks things here and there over the years and will move some up, move some back. He's made a handful of changes that we'll see further on in the coverage. that I personally really like. There's one hole that is just super long that it's a challenge to get the par on it. I'll tell you that.
Part of the evolution out here at the Grand Canyon property. They'll move on, and we're going to head over to the blind hole number 5. Big thanks to our friends at the Distinguished Doodle. What are we doing here on 5?
Every other weekend, the basket has been right in front of that giant tree that you see in the middle of the fairway. This weekend, we're going to turn the corner, go left. The basket is back kind of near the cliffside. And the play is to either go super low and play the skip off the ground, or a huge sky hyzer if you're throwing backhand, and try to just punch through the trees. I don't think there's a real crystal clear line, so you're just kind of poking and hoping. But I went for the lower line, went a little too straight, but I'm on the back. You don't want to go early left. That is the mistake that a lot of people make. You go early left, you're just pitching out for the most part.
Yeah, and Jordan clearing that with no problem. Morgan going to the backhand.
Morgan, unfortunately, making the mistake of just an early release going left. And, I mean, it's mostly jail in there, so she's going to have most likely a tough time getting out.
Yeah, she calls this her nemesis hole, and I can see why, because that's just, like you said, the mistake you cannot make. You'd rather blast it too far straight or just too far in general and have it hyzer out, but you cannot. You have to get around the corner.
So somehow, we're walking down the path, and Morgan's disc had gone all the way through the trees and was pretty much on the path that gets us. And she could almost see the pin.
Wow.
She's probably 15 feet from the pin right there. I've never seen anybody do that in all the years that I've been playing that hole.
Kind of voodoo action or something on the disc after the fact as Nid tries to get out and around. Nid, I also learned, is a player who she isn't a COVID golfer. She started playing just before COVID really had, become what it ultimately became. And she said she was introduced around February of 2020. So it's awesome to see her out here now.
And Nid's a natural athlete. I think she did gymnastics and she plays volleyball. So yeah, she's just taken to it. And it's really great. I've played multiple rounds with her just to see the progression of her game over the last year that I've known her.
Jordan able to give it a little bit of a stab.
I think the Lynds sisters are putting with, pretty sure they're the bangers from Discraft. I really like the look of the banger. Like, it's got kind of that divot in it, I guess, or the rim is different, and I feel like it's easier to grip sometimes. I've seen a lot of players putting with it, and it's their go-to putter.
I know Morgan is a big fan of the banger. That's what she putts. Jordan was booing the banger, though. She putts with something different. There's a little of that rivalry between the two of them as they're choosing their disc. But like you said, when it comes to the drivers, it feels like there's a lot of similarities between what they both rely on. As we head over, of course, Florida's own Double G Jerky. Missing Double G out here this weekend, that's for sure. But we're on 6.
All right.
Par 4.
Hole 6, par 4. It is a doozy. You want to get around this corner, land in somewhere in the middle, not in the sawgrass, not in the trees. Don't go early. And the basket's up on this plateau. The play is get it in the middle, have a second shot, maybe have a look for a putt, but get the 4 if you can, and stay out of the sawgrass. That sawgrass is no joke. It will splice you up.
Yeah, and this plays as the 4th most difficult hole on the course, almost 8/10 or more than 8/10 of a hole over par. So you need a perfect drive, and then at best you have a look if you throw a perfect second shot. So if you're getting a birdie here, you are earning it the hard way. The first shot, like you're saying, basically a stock hyzer. It's just a matter of, did you push it far enough to give yourself a look at the second shot?
The play is to push the wall that's far from you on a hyzer line, and it looks like it's going to hit it and go in it, but it's farther than it looks. You just don't want to go short left. And all of us are within like 50 feet. We all found the fairway. All 4 great drives, some of the best drives I've seen on this hole. Just coming a bit too early, but from over there, she's got to look at the basket. Should just be a easy upshot.
Yeah, too much angle on that right out of her hand, but a forehand from her position is really a great way to actually be able to attack the pin. Jordan's going to go with the backhand. And that maybe too much stability as that one just pulls out on her on that high left side. She should have a look as well to get up and down.
And just like you said, the forehand, it's a great play. You can kind of rely on the skip if it hits at the right angle. I threw mine right into the sawgrass. They've cleaned it up over the years, actually taken the tops off a bunch of them so you can actually see the fairway. So it's become a lot better. Nid's got a clear look at the basket.
And this has to be one of the I don't know, most ideal or favorite greens on the course as well. Just kind of throwing up onto a platform, and then it's kind of surrounded the way that it is. It's just, you know, as a course designer, you go out to a piece of property like this and you see it and you're like, oh yeah, this needs to be either a tee or a basket for sure. And in this layout and configuration, last few years, this has been the basket location.
That is an interesting thought, knowing if it's the basket or the tee location. It's a neat thought to think if it was in reverse and you were playing back to where you teed off, throwing up to the basket on another cliff.
That sounds miserable. This one plays better, at least slightly downhill.
Yeah, I think we do throw up enough cliffs that, yeah, I'm okay with this location.
And you said the wind knocked that one down as you were trying to maybe give it a little bit of a bid. You can be really aggressive here when you're throwing that approach shot because it's in this bowl-like area.
And it's almost a perfect circle, being the 10 meters. It's just that size of it. And you're right. Like, you can just run it all day long. I haven't really seen too many rollaways on this hole.
A little work left to do. But
I kicked myself too. If I would have missed that putt, I was so bummed that I left that upshot short. I was like, I got to make this.
Solid putt from Nid.
Yeah, Nid actually had one of her friends come up to caddy for Sam, and we talked to him a little bit throughout the round, and it was just a nice back and forth. They kind of had a good chemistry going, and they were just talking about the shots and kind of keeping the confidence up. So it was really nice to see. And yeah, Nid's putting has come a long way, and she's super solid.
Yeah, I was just thinking absolutely no shortage of confidence or aggression there, and I absolutely love it. You can head over to theplayersmeeting.com. Make sure you subscribe. They're writing articles and keeping you up to date on all disc golf information, and it's delivered right to your inbox. So big shout out to the Players Meeting as we head over here to hole number 7.
Well, 7, I would say maybe one of the easier holes on the course, except for the threat of the rollaway. Pretty much if you get to that basket, there are roots and trees and rocks. So you really got to be careful on where your disc lands, more so on your upshot.
Unless you don't need one, because you're pin high. The big danger here, as we're looking at just saw your shot, is actually just going a little deep here. That's where not all the danger you said. There's so much potential for rollaway, but I've seen people 10, 15, 20 feet deep of this basket and have almost no look, whether that's for birdie or par or bogey even. So that is the one thing. You must come up short of this basket. And we're seeing that's going to be a high left side, so she'll have a look from there. But you can be in danger going long here.
It's a slope from left to right, and down really far to the right, there's an OB line, and that's where the rollaways come in. So you kind of got to play the angle of the hill. Practice rounds help out here, knowing pretty much landing zones where you want to be on your upshot. It was a couple years ago. I had an upshot, hit the basket, stood up, rolled all the way down the path like it was headed back towards hole 1, curved around and went out of bounds towards 18's path. It was the worst rollaway I've ever seen on that hole, and I have nightmares about it. So I'm pretty like what's safe when it comes to the layup on this hole. I've seen some things, Terry.
I was just going to say, yeah, after all the years of footage out here, I couldn't agree more. I have seen some of the nastiest rollaways ever coming in on this hole. And that's even on drive, something that could pop up right next to the basket and then get up and roll 100 feet down the hill and even go out of bounds. I've seen just the craziest things here.
Yeah.
I'll go. Yeah, it's about the same. Okay.
And here you are, pin high, though, just really perfect position.
Terry, that's probably the best drive I've ever had on that hole. I'll be honest.
All right.
I was stoked.
Let's take it. That's 3 under through 7. Made a couple of solid putts for birdie, a couple solid putts for par, and everything seems to be rolling in the right direction.
Feeling good.
And I guess this is exactly what I was thinking about, is some of these individual scraggly trees and branches that are so close, just directly behind the pin, and there's space there, but they're just more of a nuisance than anything.
Yeah, both of them said that they had a stick basically right in their faces. They were trying to putt, and they couldn't do anything about it, so they just made the most of it.
Solid putt for Morgan. And within a few feet, we see the exact same thing here for Jordan.
These ladies are fun to play with. I mean, they're twins. Like, and you hear stories about twins, and they do the same thing all the time. And even when they're not like hanging out together, they probably do the same things. We played Tallahassee Open with them, and they're standing on opposite sides, and they went to do a wind check, and they both picked up leaves from the ground at the exact same time, same motion. Picked them up, held their hand up, released them at the exact same time, and looked at them. And they did, and it was bizarre. I mean, you couldn't have drawn it up any other different way.
I could see that. Yeah, they're on the same page
Yeah.
for sure. As we head over to hole number 8, this is a daunting one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because again, there's OB on the left. You can't really see it. There's a line drawn to in between 18 and 8. And you're trying to get up this, again, pretty steep hill up to this tiny little green. Sawgrass on the right, no OB thread on the right. I'm just trying to play the safe play. Where I end up, I'm not really too concerned about. I'm hoping I can get up and down from there. I just don't want to go left. The forehand play, I think, is one of the better plays for the FPO field for sure. Unless you can really get a Paul Macbeth shot up there with a backhand Annie shot. That's incredible. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, you see the single tree there in the middle of the fairway. In my opinion, if you're playing for the 3, you want to be just barely left of that tree. Well, almost perfect.
You called it.
Yeah, that's exactly where you want to be. That's going to give you a perfect line to the pin, straight up the hill, with virtually no obstruction. And you can maybe even be a little bit aggressive. I think it was last year out here we saw a throw in.
I saw a throw in. I do remember. I don't remember who it was, but I remember the throw in. It was amazing.
You guys probably remember the throw in. Put it in the comments so we can give you some jerky. Somebody out there, I'm sure, will recall. And when you're off on this right side, you can be in a world of hurt real quick because you're trying to navigate through the tunnel to find the fairway, and then sometimes you go right, then you go left, then you go right.
It was actually a really good effort by her to get all the way over to the side of where she could see the basket. That's no easy feat from that sawgrass.
And that is a great approach shot right up on the platform.
Haven't seen this hole change much over the years. There's not really any other way. No place to put the basket. The tee pad's about the same. I think the only difference was maybe the OB line in between 18 and 8, and then not making the right side OB. And actually, now there's a drop zone for lost disc. If you end up in the sawgrass, you have the 3 minutes for everybody to search and try to find it. If you can't find it, you go to the drop zone. Just trying to pitch around the corner. My Stingray didn't give it enough juice, but I'm on the dance floor.
Yeah, I was just thinking that looked like a great line. You just needed more power and maybe didn't put enough on it.
And this is also another one where you can run the basket. That hillside behind it, pretty much everything trickles down or sits within the circle.
Nid confirming she's outside of the circle there, and you saw a little bit of her sigh or her frustration She almost still cans it, but you saw the frustration because she really had the perfect tee shot. So the fact that she's now lining up for bogey is going to be a little bit frustrating. And here you are, another tester putt, this one for par. Come on.
I was feeling it, Terry.
Whoa.
I
don't know,
I was so frustrated that I had a decent drive and then shorted my upshot again. That was a little bit anger in that one. I'm not gonna lie.
Jordan, a little closer than you were. Nice and flat, though.
Now, you won't see that often. If I know anything about the Lynds sisters, is their putting is amazing. They are so consistent. I know they put in the time and the work. And you could see the frustration.
Yeah.
Like, she knew that she had messed up. Like, they almost know what releases from their hand that they've made it. They're that consistent.
Hole 8 played as the third most difficult and unfortunately gave up no birdies here today. And honestly, I'm not too surprised. I mean, you need to throw a near perfect drive and then probably still make a long putt. You know, at this distance, a little over 430 feet uphill, plus the line that you have to hit in order to get so. So a long walk. And I'm going to thank our friends over at Swarm Digital Marketing. They're talking about helping out disc golfers. They want to make sure that you can use them for search engine optimization. And they're one of the best companies in the world, actually, to do so. So make sure you reach out. They'll give you a free consultation if you tell them the Disc Golf Guy sent you. So I know Mike Barnett, Sun King, other disc golf companies use them. And they're here to support us. So let's support them. That was an
so
interesting
hole 9,
play.
Terry.
Yeah, what? There's a skip shot here, huh?
Yeah, I feel like this may be one of the most difficult holes, top 5, because
sure.
it's a par 3. And, okay, well, she made it look easy. There are trees. The tree that is right off the tee pad gets a lot of people. You got to pick between left side, right side, forehand, backhand. The ground plays, you got to throw it down. It's deceiving because you're kind of throwing up and down at the same time. And it's a tough hole, Terry.
In my dream world, if I were out here playing, I would just be okay with skipping this hole. That's how I would attack it. I don't think that's an option. I don't think there's any new rules or anything maybe Macbeth or Dillon Cease will throw out there, but I don't know. Hole 9, not my favorite. I kind of honestly, I don't cringe, but when I walk up to 9 just to film, I'm like, oh, here we go. It's hole 9.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nothing good that happens on hole 9.
No, I know that when I play practice rounds, we do a thing where you get a mulligan on the front 9 and a mulligan on the back 9. I usually save mine for 9.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now we're down on the lower kind of left side, and you catch something that could push you all the way down to the right side. Thankfully, that kind of stays up, but still work to do. There's just no letting up. Like, every shot on this hole, unless somehow you've parked it, every shot on this hole is dangerous.
What a run.
Or you can do that.
Or, yeah, just put it, hit metal, draw metal,
Wow.
hit the pin, tap in, walk away.
Jordan just needs that to sit. Looks like it's going to.
I definitely have a long look at it, but the danger is it's like I almost want to run it, but not 100% run it because you don't want to hit metal and have it roll away again. And it's in the back of my mind. And sometimes you just got to be okay with a bogey.
Now, and as you're throwing there, all I'm thinking about is your follow through and then wrapping the back of your hand on that tree. Was that something you thought about, or was that kind of forward lunge something you'd be doing regardless?
No, 100%. I check the sides, and then I check the ground in front of me when I jump putt and make sure that I have a smooth landing, because there have been several times where I have landed and hit something, almost fallen, or, yeah, like you said, hit my hand on a tree. So I definitely check the surroundings, but I like to give baskets a good jump putt run. Like, I don't really like to lay up, Terry.
Anybody got time for that? This ain't basketball.
Nobody got time for that.
Solid putt, but that's going to be the first blemish on the scorecard. The question is, will it be the only one? We've got action on the backside, of course, as we're starting to wrap things up. course, I want to thank you, Ellen, for joining. I got to thank all of our sponsors, Discraft, along with Sun King, and then additional support coming in from the people over at Swarm, along with the players meeting. Make sure you go out there and check those guys out. That's everything for the front 9 here of Throw Down the Mountain weekend number 4. As we take a quick look at the scores through the front 9, popular scorer, unless your name's Ellen, is 2 over, and you're out there crushing it. So, Ellen, we'll see you in the back 9.
See you, Terry.